Welcome to, okay. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Membership Master Vault series. I'm Ade Onayemi, and on behalf of Rotary Zones 25B and 29, thank you for joining us tonight. We truly appreciate you making time to be here. This series exists for one clear purpose: to help Rotary clubs move beyond talking about membership and into building cultures where people truly belong and choose to stay engaged. A few quick housekeeping notes. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be shared afterward on the Zone website. Please use the Q&A chat to share reflections as we go. We'll also be using live polls tonight. Tonight's focus is belonging and engagement, not as abstract ideas, but as real drivers of retention, participation, and growth. I'm pleased to welcome our guest for this evening, Dr. Todd Bowtie Jenkins, and our moderator, Demetris Harrell, Zone Membership Coordinator. We're keeping Dr. Jenkins' formal introduction brief so he can share his Rotary story in his own words. To set the stage, let's begin with our first poll. Please take a moment to respond. Okay. So first, which of the following is the most significant benefit of fostering a culture of belonging? In Rotary clubs, that also leads to membership growth, stronger membership retention, deeper collaboration in projects, greater community impact, increased trust among members, more enjoyable club experience, or all of the above. What say you? Trying to see the responses here. Very good. Oh, all of the above. Excellent. Excellent. So moving on then. We'll get so thank you for weighing in. Now, Dr. Todd, now that we see these responses, here's my first question for you. And bear with me a little bit here. Do you think we as Rotarians have truly mastered membership growth when it comes to belonging? And before you answer, thank you for being our December guest. You joined Rotary in 2012, and as we reflect on your career, your education, and your commitment to Rotary, it's important that we begin by hearing your Rotary story. What drew you in, and what has kept you engaged? Dr. Todd, the floor is yours.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for having me, and good evening, my friends. It is so good to be back in community with Rotarians such as yourself. I'm at home, and so I am definitely extending my heart and mind to you and your spaces today. For anyone who's not met me before, I'm Dr. Todd Jenkins, known as Dr. Bowtie Todd. Also, to be inclusive, I like to do a visual ID, and this is another thing we do in the tech space around accessibility on virtual platforms to ensure that everyone are able to have the same experience from a screen perspective. And so my visual identification, I identify as a good-looking black male on the screen. I'm wearing a red bow tie. I have a striped gray shirt, and I have a virtual blue rotary background. And I'm in the comfort of my home today. So I'm really excited to be here and be in community. And so, to the question of how did I get started in Rotary, I cannot believe, wow, 2012 is when I joined Rotary Club of Fayetteville, Arkansas. And what was very interesting about my Rotary moment or Rotary story, because actually when I joined Rotary, that was not really my Rotary moment, but my attraction to Rotary came as a challenge that I was having by being locally at the university. I was recruited to come work at the university and do some research, but it was hard to get connected with the community. And my chancellor at the time, who was actually a mentor, I told him, I couldn't get connected to the community. And he said, you should go to this place, which is my weekly newspaper. And that was the local Rotary Club. And so I got invited to the local Rotary Club of Fayetteville, which was over 200 members. When I walked in, everyone stood up and started clapping. It's not because I walked in, it's because the chancellor came in with me and he's not been at a meeting in so many years. And so it's been really, really great to find my home at the Rotary Club of Fayetteville back in 2012. And that's why I joined. I joined out of a need to connect to the community. And unbelievable today. Wow, 10 plus years. I was 22, 23 as a young member of the club. The youngest, I brought the average age down to like 72 in that club. And it was a really, really great milestone for me. But I tell you this really quickly, it was the projects that I learned about later, but really what retained me in the club was the people. We were all united by the shared purpose of improving lives. And then I learned that we could do this globally. And so that's why I stayed in Rotary, because it became a place where my personal mission, which is to wake up every day to create spaces for all humans to belong and thrive together, one bow tie convo at a time. And so I was able to find that in Rotary to empower people to build bridges around differences, inclusion, and to create this more inclusive world. And so I found this in Rotary as a global home. And that's why I stayed, because of the projects that we were able to connect in with service and the youth leadership program. And then I also would share that, last but not least, Rotary came to me more than a club. It wasn't just, it was a friendship, it was a network, but more importantly, it was a platform. It is a platform that amplifies some of my life meaning. And I'm just so grateful for you and what you do today and being a part of this conversation and for having this space to not only just continue to share my story, but to be in community to make Rotary better than we found it.
I love that. I see so many intriguing areas when we talk about cultivating a culture of belonging and engagement. Not only did we see that many individuals who answered that question, and thank you, audience, for doing that this evening, they talked about stronger member retention. You said, I've been in it because of the strong relationships. They talked about deeper collaboration on projects, and you said service was key, a key essential and an element that you still foster today. They talked about greater community impact. And that's ironic because, today I was on a call with some international Rotary relationships, and they were talking about that community relationship, the input and the output, right? When we talk about you being in Rotary since 2012, and Addie setting that up for us, your career has been incredible. I consider you my little brother from Harvard now. I want you all listeners to know that this is a Harvard grad, and you have a very diverse commitment to the vision of Rotary and where it is going. And it has become important that you share your story. One, because we are always talking about getting younger members in Rotary. But when we think about, looking and loving Rotary the way you do, how do you feel that that word belonging has really fostered that relationship in how you have extended and expanded your reach?
Yes, that's a really great question. But first of all, belonging is perspective taking. And so it's really what we see in research is how you make an individual feel, but it's also the perception of how they feel to that identity or to that group, as whether if they would like to leave with the output of that they belong, right? And so what you have to do is back into, because belonging is the outcome, you have to really think about what are the ingredients that goes into belonging, and that's really the climate and the culture of your club. That's really, and let's break it down that even to even more. The climate and culture of your club is only as rich as the humans in your club, and the humans are only as rich as the diversity of across the human spectrum that you have in your club. And we see that research and practice shows that the more diverse your club is one piece, but the more inclusive your club can be, it can really grow your club into new heights. And
Right.
so in research and in practice, we've been able to see that, Rotary International as a whole, we are a very diverse group. It's our core value. But when we start to get and look within the United States and look in some of the demographics, we are starting to see representation across the spectrum of all identity groups, could be not reflective of the communities that we serve. And so we start to ask the question and be curious, why is that? What can we do to evolve and think about, the equitable lens? And so Rotary has been really great with great practices of flexible club models, and all the great things to help us evolve. But to get to your question around the belonging and what that meant for me is that when I came into a club, I was one of the youngest members. I actually didn't see many people who looked like me from a skin tone and complexion, but I was able to like find my connection and identity to who I already was to the club. So I had to spend a little more energy and effort to make that connection to ensure that I felt like this was a club for me. And I didn't always feel that way, but instead of complaining about it or leaving the club, I remain committed to be that change, because I wanted other people who look like me selfishly and other younger people to experience the greatness that Rotary had to offer. And Rotary offered to me at that time, it says service above self. That's what everyone said, right? Service above self. But I really didn't know what that meant because I was still trying to understand. And I think this is something that as Rotarians we can do better when we talk to potential members is what is our value proposition? Some people connect to Rotary for service, fellowship. Some are trying to continue to, relive their purpose or find their purpose. And we have to be able to package this so a new member or a person you're attracting can really understand that, Rotary is multifaceted. And if you want to find your why in Rotary, we offer that. But that was not presented to me. It was presented like, here's the things you need to do to be the member, and we do great stuff and go at it, and that can be a little scary. And so I believe because I know who I was and whose I am, I was able to find my connection to Rotary that result to a home that's belonging for me locally and globally.
Yeah, yes. And very much so globally because you got in there and you cultivated your own initiatives. I love even when you came on, you identified who you were. This good looking, handsome gentleman, right? Someone that is recognizable. But you also have done something very unique and you've added a little bit of jazz to your introduction, and that is this bow tie. I'm sure that everyone knows you by the bow tie. So if you came into a room without one, that might be a little bit of a challenge. But where did that style come from? What made that connection? I think everybody wants to know about that.
So great question, because I've not always wore bow ties. I didn't grow up around bow ties. I'm actually from the inner city of South Carolina. I was raised in the housing projects there. And I didn't really see ties. But when I started to become go into grad school, I really started to get exposed to other, sectors and of course becoming a researcher in the academic space, and being around other doctors. I did see the bow ties, but really that shift for me happened. A lot of people don't know this, is that when I went and I conducted a study when I went to Morehouse College. And if you're not familiar with Morehouse College, is one of the premier African American institution for men, collegiate in Atlanta, Georgia. And so this is where Martin Luther King went. So many just great leaders that in our past. So when I went there, I really got this sense of empowerment around the wells and to be well spoken, well dressed, to be well received. And I just took that on. And I tell you, I left there and showed back up to my graduate school with a bow tie on and this new birth. And I would, ever since then, my friends, I would tell you that this bow tie became a conversation starter, in Korea, to Brazil, to Australia, to many different parts of the US. It became a conversation starter. And so I was able to allow this to be a connection into humanity. And so that's what I leverage the bow tie as. I wear it. It's now become a phenomenon and a concept and a philosophy. And it's how I engage with everyday dialogue. And it's actually an acronym of how you can live life, which is be mentally present. How many of you all know you can be mentally present, and I'm sorry, physically present and mentally absent?
Yes.
Okay, so that's rule number one, be mentally present. The O stands for open to new ideas. What if we woke up every day with an open heart and an open mind? I know that's uncomfortable for some people, but when you go into an experience with an open mind and an open heart, you kind of create this space to be vulnerable and to also receive what humanity would like to give to you. And then the W stands for willing to engage. And see, and many times in our spaces, we want to receive, but we forget that we also have a story to share. Like, so willing to tell your story, willing to go across differences and engage with someone who doesn't look like yourself. And then the most challenging part of this craft here is what people say is this knot in the middle, how to make the knot. And that's why I tell people, when you go into experiences and difficult conversations, it's important to make the knot, but not the knot in your stomach. I'm talking about the TIE. How do you tie it together? How do you leave the conversation and experience better than you came? And that's the bow tie way. And that's my encouragement to y'all when you see this bow tie or you hear about bow ties, is thinking about, it's not about what you wear around your neck, but it's what you practice every day in your behaviors of really trying to grow to be better than the day before. And so that's the bow tie philosophy and why I continue to wear them.
I
And they
love it.
don't get in
I
the
love
way
it.
when I eat my chicken.
Yeah, yeah. That's the message. I hope that all of our listeners heard that message, that it's not just a bow tie, but there is a message that keeps us connected. And so let's, tie into right now our audience with our second poll question. Which area should your club prioritize to build engagement and belonging? Let's see how they are going to answer this question.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's important as we look at prioritizing to build engagement and belonging. And I love that you said that that was a way that it made a connection for you. So, panelists, here we are seeing this, and we hope now our audience is, so that they can give us a little guidance on what they are expanding the DEI initiatives, offering more flexible meeting options, encouraging member-led projects, creating more spaces for authentic connections, and recognizing and celebrating individual contributions. All right, audience, all of our Rotarians in zone 25B and 29, as well as those who have come to visit with us tonight. Let's see. Oh, so Dr. Todd, did you see how they're seeing that celebration is high? Give us a little feedback on what you think and why they didn't give a lot of percentage on the DEI initiatives. They really said recognizing and celebrating individual contributions. And I like that.
Yeah, well, this is interesting. And, I think it's once again, it's about lived experience and perception here and perspective. And, arguably, when you're prioritizing D&I, you really got to think about like what does that mean for people? And the goal is if you prioritize that you have D&I baked into everything, it should be a part of who we are and as we show up as Rotarians to help better our communities. Because we actually can achieve service. It's service above self, not service to self. And so you actually have to be able to think about what that encompasses, which is essentially being able to embrace diverse experiences and be inclusive with the equitable mindset. But based on the results here, this is actually, not as surprising for me because we see in psychology is that, more today than ever before, humans want and need to be connected. And in order to be connected, we actually, what I would have thought been the highest, research said we need the spaces to do that, right? And the spaces is not the spaces necessarily, it's not wrong to have a virtual summit or virtual connection, but you need more of the physical spaces to be in community. And something powerful happened. That's why this model of club meetings, whether it's online or in person, that social exchange is so incredible to ensuring that your club is elevating and your club is retaining and also being able to have that growth because people feel connected. And so the next piece I would share is that the second was not around it was celebration. So many times we become very transactional as the Rotary world. We come to our meeting, we ring the bell, we may sing a song, we have a speaker, we may have a little piece of meat or salad to eat, and then we leave. We say hello to our friends, and then we leave. But what we're also seeing as research is that we have to do better at acknowledging the wins in our club. And I know this could be challenging for certain cultures, or certain club cultures, but think about when the last time you really heard members talk about each other and celebrate the milestones that they're doing outside the club, right? That's one piece of feeling connected. And what I learned from this, my friend, is that people want to feel connected and people want to feel love. They want to feel love. You would ask all your Rotarians, and I'm not going to say I guarantee, but not many will say that I don't want to feel love when I come to Rotary. And so you got to really think about how are you loving on your members? And how do you, it's like your family members, right? When they come to the house, oh my God, the joy, certain family members, it's like the joy, the social exchange is there and your eyes light up. How can you make your Rotary members' eyes light up? Yes. I want to leave you with that. I want to leave you with you to sit with that a little bit. When the last time have you seen members' eyes light up? Who eyes are lit up? Who eyes are not? Who's ducking out before the bell even closed, right? We got to think of those dynamics because at the end of the day, we have to ensure that we have a climate and culture that everyone feel as if they want to, they can belong there. And it's our job to do that.
Absolutely. I have to share this little segment of a story. Just this last week, I went to visit one of my Rotarian friends that turned 100, and his club gave him a wonderful celebration. And really, what he said is, I said, what does it feel like to be 100? And he said, Demetrius, the reason why I believe I am still able to do what I do, and he still drives and he's extremely extraordinary in his cognitive skills and all of his knowledge. He said, it is because of the relationships that I have had and the connections with and through Rotary. You see, Rotary then allows us to live longer because we are celebrated. So that would be another good sales pitch, to grow Rotary. You live longer with Rotary. And, really the reality is it is a life well lived because through Rotary, we have built so many friends. So it really does go back to the four-way test. And, when we look
Absolutely.
at their thoughts and their approach, we know, audience, thank you so much for giving us that feedback. But I want to turn the segment just a hair because we are talking about curating, creating, and cultivating that belonging relationship. Dr. Todd, please just share a little bit about what your experience was in serving on the Rotary International DEI Council. But what we really want people to know is that we're making a great shift, one that will hopefully make people feel comfortable and recognize what that really is all about. And that is now we've changed the name to Enhancing Participant Engagement. It's a committee, but it is about engagement. And that topic tonight, belonging and engagement, really goes hand in hand. But tell us a little bit about your work there.
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for that question because it's actually been a journey, since I've been and started in Rotary. One of the first thing I started to think about is even access with financial, with the dues and being able to have access to the membership. And that was one of the things I kind of piloted in my club early when I first joined. And then throughout that time, I've been able to also cascade and do some of the things in our district. Then I got invited to the I don't know if it was Zone Emerging Leaders. It was a Emerging Leaders Institute.
Yes.
And then I started to really understand how Rotary, start to operate and put some ideas out there. And of course, this was also my training and my profession. So I was able to
Right.
bring that into the intersection of my service with Rotary and be a value add, I feel like, to Rotary. And so I was a part of the first Rotary International DEI task force, which was really trying to unpack women and the initiatives that we had to advance women in Rotary. And so we were doing webinars, speaking at international convention, really trying to think about the leadership pipeline of advancing women. Well, we know that that's one element, but how do we also advance other marginalized groups that the data has shown from evidence that we have in Rotary? And so the D&I task force really came together to start to chart that course. And we were looking to start with the data, and which we didn't have the data at Rotary, and still today is still challenging due to the different global compliance in certain countries. But we only track, we track gender,
Right.
male and female, but we didn't really track age, and we definitely did not track other demographics. And so we didn't have enough evidence to inform the initiatives globally and within regions. So the task force really did work to really understand where we're at, what is the baseline, and how do we intersect and talk through on a global framework, which you all know, can only imagine, could be challenging. And so we knew that this was not a one-stop shop. So we helped create, the position statement for Rotary. We helped give language and meaning and with that research, and then that informed the strategy of the D&I Council. Then I got invited to join the D&I Advisory Council, which that was positioned to advise the board, which was, the global board of Rotary.
Right.
And so with those initiatives, we did achieve a lot around the roadmap, because one thing I talk about in this space is that it's not about, checking a check. It's not about a check mark. It's about maturity. How are you looking at, your inclusive or maturity, and what does that look like? I would encourage you all to think about that as your club as well. What does the maturity look like for belonging? What does maturity look like for engagement? And when you're able to name and define, you can also now know the North Star and the aspirations that you all are trying to achieve as a goal. And I think that's what has happened, which I'm no longer on the participant engagement committee, but that the shift, to my understanding, was a intentional shift to ensure that these elements are embedded into how we show up in our membership. And I will go ahead and tell you, this is my thoughts. This is not I'm on the Rotary Youth Advisory Council as well today. And I'm not speaking on the behalf of Rotary Youth Advisory Council or Rotary DEI. I'm speaking on the behalf of Todd. Okay.
Right.
And here's my thoughts. I do not believe Rotary have a membership problem. I believe that Rotary have a value proposition and belonging problem, and membership numbers are the symptom. And I'm going to say that we have an opportunity because Rotary in the U.S., by being on this committee, I have been able to learn a lot. In the Rotary in the U.S., we've made progress on membership. I know our numbers are lower, but we made progress on membership growth and belonging. But even this whole name of the conversation of mastery, I started to think about mastery. Wow, that's really that's an aspirational goal. But what does that imply when you kind of master this? And in my head, that's a level of consistency, cultural alignment, and measurable outcomes that simply, we're just not there yet, right? And so these are things that we got to think about. And if anything, Rotary is in the middle of this long overdue shift, if you will, from recruitment to relevance. How are we being relevant to our community? How are we being relevant to members? And that transition is uneven across the clubs and districts in the U.S. How are we are relevant? I always use the metaphor of the Lion King, the Pride Rock. We want all the Rotary members to join the Pride Rock, and we tell people about the Pride Rock and the Lion King, right? The movie. But what I tell Rotarians is, how many of us go to the elephant graveyard?
Right.
That's where we need to go. We need to go where the sun doesn't shine, because that's where I would say Rotary is needed the most in our communities. And if we can start to be relevant to the most marginalized identity in our backyard, I think Rotary's on, we will hit strides, because that will bottleneck up to how we show up with our member proposition to all people. Because if you can treat kindness, it's just like if you can have kindness for the person who's most outside of your yard and family, imagine when they get in your yard or in your family, what type of treatment they will have. And that is the connection that we're trying to continue to strengthen, because we have the potential. We do have the potential. We made strides and clear, we have communication about DEI that was all over the websites, and everybody was talking about it in clubs and having a DEI chair, DEI committee, DEI. I really was talking like every other day. But now I don't hear about it as much, right? And so you would say, well, what happened, Todd? I don't know. I'm asking you the question. What happened? I don't know. But I have a thought. But what I am trying to share is that we have to ensure that that we're just not riding the wave. We need to ensure that this is our value. This is a core value. But how does this value become the practice? And we have flexible club models. We're getting better storytelling, like your Rotary Y, and really clearing and growing our awareness. But we still are a little far away, because, as I said, the belonging is inconsistent. Some clubs, I've been to a lot. Some clubs are warm and inclusive. Others still operate like, closed social circles, and I'm just speaking truth, because I'm a truth teller. And my grandma said, when you know better, you do better. Membership growth is uneven. Many clubs grow only through replacing losses, and they're not expanding. Like, these are things that we're seeing. And the DEI commitment varies. It varies based on culture and commitment of the leadership. And we really do think that we have to start thinking about the data and how do we use data to inform our decisions. I mean, Rotary Club is an organization, and we have a lot of business leaders and all these experts, but sometimes we don't bring that to Rotary. I don't know what happens. We just gotta just let it go. And I'm gonna land here to say is that, Rotary Challenge is not that people don't want to serve. We do know that. It's that people want to serve in environments where they feel seen, valued, and able to continue and contribute authentic in an authentic version of themselves. That's what we see with this generation that is coming, is that if they don't see themselves, if they don't feel seen, they see this as not an opportunity for they're going to spend their time and be burnt out. And so we got to really think about how are we continue to transition so we can remain here another 100 years.
I love that. People do want to be seen. They want to be recognized, not just because of what they're doing, but who they are. And so I think you really, in that we have multiple nuggets that we were able to pull away from. What I thought was quite interesting is that we don't have a membership problem. Because we're not looking at it just as the individuality, but it's where can we go to grow? And, I really respect and recognize some of those former leaders that have been in this position of Rotary membership coordinator, because they really became very, very innovative in new ways to create Rotary clubs. And now we have this new tool, the Rotary new club creation application. It's an app that you can download for Androids or for Apple and iOS. And so that is now saying that if you can't see yourself in that club, you can create your own. And I think that that's another really interesting part of the authentic connection and belonging. As we've talked about your journey, we've seen the authentic self of Todd, and you've created a wonderful brand. And branding is extremely important. But tell us a little bit more about you joined Rotary to make those connections. It's been on multiple levels in various perspectives. What could we say for new members coming in would be a part of that why? What are we looking for in the why?
Yeah, for me, I think that's the beauty of Rotary is, it's not a one size fit all. And I have learned that because it's several individuals in my community that I'm like, let's go to district conference together or let's go to international convention. Everyone is not as motivated as I am, even in my own club. Do you know, I mean, you all know this as membership coordinators and leaders, how many club members have never touched, district or international assembly, right?
Right.
And so I have learned that my why into Rotary is not the same as everyone else's why, and I'm okay with that. And but what I try to encourage and inspire everyone is that are you creating the space for people to acknowledge their why and feel that is a connection to Rotary. And I think so many times that, we shouldn't be able to, wait 3 or 5 years to finally have that light bulb moment, because we see members leave after the third meeting, if they want to stay, after that third meeting, if they're still trying to figure it out, they actually have made their mind up on the first round. That first impression, when they come into the club, that's already going into their unconsciousness of saying, oh, do I like this? Do I don't? What, all these things. So it's something that I exactly, do I stay? Do I not? But one of the things that I've seen that we don't do a lot of, that we could do more, is really get to know the human that's coming into the club. I think we quickly try to ensure that members assimilate, and we put them in where we want them to belong. Like, oh, join this committee, or hey, go talk to this person in this club, or hey, everyone speak, everyone does like the good old hospitality and wave their hand and speak to you, but that's it. They leave out that door and you don't see that, they don't talk to that person throughout the week. And what we need is more small, genuine connections that's outside of that one-time meeting. And so think about when you have that small connection, you can really get to know what people are passionate about, what gets them up in the morning, what keeps them up at night. And now we have a connection point to allow that to be a belonging metric to Rotary. because I will argue anyone that I would debate anyone to say I believe that Rotary can be for everyone. I mean, you can really find your place in Rotary. If
Mhm.
you are whatever sector, whatever your background, Rotary is a great connection to help you continue to live a long life as that 100-year-old, because you need a sense of belonging, connection, and service. So that's what I would say that has advanced my why and my compass in Rotary. And I've seen that all across the world. Rotary is a beautiful thing. And how dare I sit up here and not try to tell the world about it? So that's why every time my colleagues, at work, everyone know Todd is a Rotarian, but they also know Todd has told them to come to a meeting or go and sit on this webinar because everyone has the opportunity to experience the greatness that I believe our organization embodies.
I love that. And we have had some interaction in our Q&A. And I love that those who live in Minnesota and those who don't, but in a few years will be in Minnesota. It's bringing Rotary Convention back to North America. We love that. I saw a comment in reference to education on DEI, and perhaps those individuals should not be in Rotary since DEI principles should be important. But in reality, what I heard you say really is that you've unpacked the reflection and the representation of members, and how we engage them and how we show up for them. And we build strategies that will encourage growth because we are encouraging the individual to acknowledge who they are, what they are, and how they play a significant role in Rotary. I hear a lot of people say, well, we've got a new member, but they didn't stay long. Well, we did not use some of their talent, right? Back in the day when I joined, Dr. Todd, I've been in Rotary since the 90s, 98, I believe.
Yes.
We came in because it was for classifications, and we wanted to get people from these different career paths and different professions. And we left that, and you talked about the flexibility. But now we're about encouraging. But I love the key element is engage. And I think that's why the committee has really sought after this word participant and engagement,
Mhm.
because the reason why we're really coming to Rotary is because it's an opportunity to not only engage in wonderful people like you, and then also to participate because we're seeing things move and change. There's action in Rotary. And I think that that's why so many people love the opportunity to serve, because they know that they're going to bring about change. I love too that you indicated that we need to look in some of those dark spaces, because some of those areas are the areas that may not have had the impact of Rotary. So I love that. But I also love the fact that you are a wonderful husband, a
Mhm.
wonderful father. And I can say that I have held your son. I haven't had an opportunity to see your beautiful daughter, your little princess yet. But when you would come to Rotary and events, you would fly in and you would bring your son. And so, I want to approach this series as we're leaning toward the latter part of it. I want to speak a little bit more about the future of Rotary, because you said something so important, that we have to look at the generations to come. We want Rotary to be around another 100 years, just like my friend who is turned 100. But if we took a moment to just share Rotary and your journey in the fact of the privilege to meet your baby, your son, who's now, I believe, about 5 or going to be 5.
Yeah, he's 4. Yeah, he'll be
4, he's
5 next
4,
year. He's
yes.
4. You're good.
Yes.
Yes.
And so, how do we attract younger generations? But what would you leave for him in that legacy? What would you be saying? I think we had a moment to share and reflect that you would want him to seek Rotary, but you also want Rotary to seek him.
Yes,
Yes. So,
absolutely.
so,
Well,
so how would
yeah,
you
been a
sum
young
that up?
father, and I whether you have a little human or anything you care about. Like, it's a precious jewel. And I'm so blessed and privileged to have an opportunity to be a father and a husband. And it's definitely my partner, my wife is, incredible. So I just want to
Yes,
acknowledge my
she's
wife
beautiful.
and my kids, because without them, it's no me at this moment. And because I do believe, this is why I also really fight hard. And I know fight could be strong language, but I try to continue to show up for Rotary, because Rotary is just such a pillar of the communities in which we live and serve. And I want to ensure that my son Mateo and my daughter Amai, as they grow up, that they see Rotary is a place for them. And what are going to be some of those KPIs, the key performance indicators, is
Yes.
what we do after this session. That is what's going to help continue to impact, because we're all on a journey here. And as I said earlier, we're trying to get to maturity in this space. And so as we think about attracting the next generation, first of all, we need to be co-creators
Yes.
co-creators of the product of Rotary. We
Mhm.
cannot expect how many. We all been there. Everyone been there, young adults, and when the older adult, more wise senior come and tell you this is the way you should do it, you do the totally opposite. And sometimes you
Yes.
don't even go back and talk to them unless you got some good sense and you know that they actually been through some things and they have well meaning. And I say that is because so many times what I've seen in our Rotary world is that we're creating products for youth or for the next generation without them involved. And
Wow.
so it's very important, as I say, if you want to think about attracting the next generation, you have to be co-creators. That means be intergenerational. Let's stop using the words young and old in our clubs. These are the young people. Oh, you young person, come over here and take the mic. Or you young person, tell us about the technology. You young. I mean, I've heard it so
Oh,
many
yes.
times.
Yes.
Or dismissive of our experience. Oh, you're young. You don't know anything about. That is so just, I know everyone means so, good heart, but that is dismissing the voice, that in perspective, that maybe that young person or next generation can, be able to support. Also, don't sleep on your experience either. We need each other. It's not, I am very, very much, I have learned the most of my Rotary journey from people who look different than me and who are much wiser and seasoned than I am. And so I also want to say, don't dismiss your perspective. That's why I think we need to cross pollinate and co create the
Mm.
solution. So my son and Amaya and all the young people, which is young is, age is a number, maturity is a mindset, right? So everyone in this call is young. We're here today. And so I think what I will leave y'all with in this regards is that we're gonna be in a period where you Rotary is not going to be about convincing people to join. Okay, I can see even us as millennials and the next generation, Rotary is, is not how it is, not old school Rotary anymore. And the great thing I love is that we have had different models to meet our community needs, but we got to also think about the cultural needs, the cultural piece of this. We have a lot of trends happening. What's the big trend? AI.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I'm going to just be candid. It's some conversations about AI and Rotary, but we're a little behind the curve. We're not having that in front of our membership proposition of what can AI do to help enable our club experience right now. I mean, it's kind of slowly, and I know we're still treading the waters there, but that's a lot of times when we have these different things that are introduced to society, sometimes Rotary is a little left behind. And so I would say that would be my next encouragement is like those trends that you talking about it with your grandkids and the TikToks and all, bring that to the club. Bring
Yes.
that to the club. And let's bring that energy. And so I will leave y'all with that thought is that, don't look for the young people to always give the energy. We will look for you to give. And I'm not saying you're old versus them, but we need collective energy. And I think that's what makes us great.
I love that. And I love that Melrose noted that that was a wonderful question. As a PDG who cannot recruit her own daughters to Rotary, she's looking for you to help her bring that energy and challenge the younger generations. But, you know, another comment was noted too, suggest 7 points that would make Rotary attractive to those younger generations. And I think that's something that we can work on. And me and you can have an opportunity of exchange. And you come back and share with us a little bit more on that topic and subject as well. You know, our time has been well spent. We have really heard a lot about belonging, and we've seen the Rotary journey through the work of an individual who has been passionate. You know, I think about 3 words. You know, we want to have members that we are able to retain, sustain, and maintain. Maintain the status quo, no, but maintain a growth in our club. And so we want to take a moment to look at our final poll question and, you know, just see what the feedback is there. So let's bring up that third poll question. How often do you feel your unique perspectives and strengths are celebrated in the club? Always, often, sometimes, or almost never? Let's see what our audience has to say about that. You know, as we prepare for the holidays, we know that Rotary is a big part of that celebration. In January, we will be moving into gaining more opportunities with our governor-elects at International Assembly. And so unique perspectives and strengths being celebrated is what they're going to come back with clubs. So, you know, we see always 14%, often 38%, sometimes 31%, and almost never 17%. We definitely know we have to make a change in that almost never. But it's good that often those things are celebrated. And so, Dr. Todd, as we draw closer into our time in this segment to have Adia give us some wishes in the celebration, I want to end this question with, you know, the holiday season. I know I can only imagine with 2 young people in your home, 2 babies, I still say, that there's lots of packages. But how do you plan to celebrate the holiday seasons, and especially for that beautiful bride of yours?
Oh, that's so kind. Well, actually, we're actually, I don't know if people will agree with what I'm about to say next or not. But first, I do, we celebrate the holidays, Kwanzaa, always the King's Day. I mean, it's a full-blown 30 days of celebration. But one of the things that we have lifted up as our tradition, our little small family tradition, we actually rewrap Mateo's favorite books and we put them
Oh,
under the tree from our library. And he gets to for the 30 days of December, he gets to open up a book every night. And he's so excited because they're all his favorite books.
yes.
And we get to read it every night. And then on the night before Christmas, he picked 3 toys to wrap and give away. And we actually give that away to the shelter as we go into the new year. And so that's, we're going to continue that tradition. And that's how we, celebrate from the recognition and reflection of joy that we have for each other and the world in our communities in which we serve and live. And so I look forward to Santa Maya continuing to light up. She's already pulling, things off the tree, and
Yes.
she's 13 months or 14 months, so she's walking and doing all the things. So I'm really, really excited about just being with family and friends. And I'm just telling you all as we kind of land this, wrap this up. This has been a tough year for
Yes.
all of us on this call. And so I want create the space to recognize that you still yet showed up, and I'm grateful for you being here and still being present in the community. We
Yes.
are needed more than ever to ourselves, to our family. One of the biggest experiences and with age group is loneliness, and
Yes,
also with young people. And so
right.
that was the question: what can you be? Is connect to young people. Be a reverse mentor. Allow a young person to mentor you. Guess what? This could be fun. I just started this idea. Have a young person or the next generation come run your club for the day. Let like the president run the club. Let them moderate the club. These are just have fun, enjoy. And I want to leave you all with that. I hope that you have a great holiday season. I send you off in love, peace, and most importantly, comfort of whatever you wish to be brought to you. And so, thank y'all for having me. I'm going to put my someone sent me to connect. I'll put my link here if you want to connect with me or have any follow-up questions. But thank y'all for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Dr. Todd Bowtie Jenkins. What a wonderful segment we have. Adi, come on back on and give us our close. We know that we're going to have another exciting segment in January, and Adi is going to be able to share a little bit about that just in our last 3 to 4 minutes that we have. Dr. Todd is putting his information in. Please know that he is a dynamic speaker and would be more than available for you if you want to have him come to your club or your district. Addie, are you out there?
I am here.
There you
Can
are.
you see me?
We can't see you.
Uh-oh.
We can hear you.
I don't know what's happening. I'm Cyclops today, so
That's okay. That's
let me see
okay.
if I can get myself back in here.
If you
Uh,
just provide us that in the last 4 minutes
okay.
that we have. There you are.
I
There
am
you are.
here. All
And Dr. Todd,
right.
we cannot say enough thank yous.
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Show him some love.
Something is happening with my screen here. So, but anyway, wow, what a segment. What a segment indeed. So thank you, Dr. Todd, for sharing your expertise, your story, and your heart for Rotary. Demetrius, thank you for your thoughtful moderation, your insightful questions, and your leadership. Very grateful for that. Um, on behalf of Rotary Zones 25B and 29, thank you both for an engaging and meaningful conversation on belonging and engagement. The January session, I believe we close, and I want to extend a personal invitation to everyone with us tonight. Please join us January 20 for our segment on learning deep dive, unlocking Rotary's gold mine for membership development. The Rotary Learning Center is one of our most powerful and most underused resources. So we're going to be talking about that, how you can integrate learning modules into new membership onboarding, build them into leadership pipelines, use them in strategic planning and retreats, tracking progress, encouraging peer learning. When you know better, you do better, as was said earlier. When used intentionally, the Learning Center becomes a living resource. So we're going to be talking about that. Our special guest will be Trustee Marty Hellman and RI staff, Kimberly, uh, uh, Kwame. So we're looking forward to it. Have a happy holiday. Looking forward to a good new year. And please join us. Bring your leadership to the next meeting and enjoy and learn. What a great evening. Thank you again.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you soon.